All right, welcome back to Always Adaptive. My name is Randall James. I'm a strength and a running coach with 11 years of experience. And today I have another very important question that needs answering. Does adopting David Goggins' framework lead to health and longevity? Probably about once a month or so, someone sends me a reel or a YouTube video of Goggins. It's either him doing something extraordinary, like his most recent finish of a 200-mile race out of nowhere, or it could just be a quick clip of him telling us to stay hard. Plus, I put up a poll. You all know that I love polls, just to see what y'all thought about him. And honestly, I was surprised at the amount of people that thinks he takes it too far. It's very rare that when I speak to someone in the real world about Goggins, they have anything negative to say about him. Let me get this out of the way first. David Goggins is a straight up beast. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I think there are problems, not necessarily in how he frames his own world and motivations, but in what people take away from that framing. So today I want to share a few of my thoughts on Goggins, all viewed through the lens of health. This won't be a research heavy video. There will be some, but it's more of a philosophical discussion, and one that I think is especially important for the endurance running community, but also fitness as a whole. But real quick, if you could tell this is going to be a banger of a video, then hit that like and subscribe button. I release a video every week, bobbing and weaving between strength and hypertrophy related topics to running topics and everything in between. I'm very passionate about all of this stuff, and this channel is basically just a means of getting the stuff I like to research out of my head and into a creative outlet. But with all that out of the way, onto the video. So who in the world is David Goggins? Since you clicked on this video, I'm assuming most of you already know who he is. But for those that don't, Goggins is a retired Navy SEAL, an extreme endurance athlete, not just with running, but cycling. And he's also a motivational speaker known for his extreme messaging around toughness and perseverance. He's written 2 books, both to critical acclaim, Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished. He's also highly decorated and has been accepted as sort of the king of the go harder mindset. Not that he needs it, but I have a lot of praise and admiration for him. However, when I approach fitness, I try to anchor myself back to health and longevity first and foremost. I'm constantly questioning myself, is what I'm doing right now healthy? This is important because exercise addiction, while not having a formal diagnosis in the DSM-5, is a very real thing. There are disorders like anorexia athletica, which is the idea you feel compelled to exercise beyond the point of benefiting your body. The food version of this would be anorexia nervosa. And then there's exercise bulimia, which borrows from bulimia nervosa. This is when you binge eat, and instead of inducing vomiting, you feel extreme urges to exercise. There are also conditions like muscle dysmorphia. There was a really interesting documentary done on this topic called Bigorexia. I believe it was on Netflix at some point, but it's on all of the popular streaming channels and devices, including Prime. I strongly urge you to watch it, especially if you're really into fitness. Muscle dysmorphia is when an individual thinks they're not muscular enough or insufficiently lean, even if they have more than enough muscle and are leaner than the average individual. There's always this need to get bigger and leaner. This, I think, is the crux to why the bodybuilding field is so unhealthy. Most of these people have body dysmorphia. So where does Goggins fit into all this? Well, first, I want to focus on the recent drama between Goggins and his daughter. This is related because just like people can neglect their families because of their job and being obsessed with making money, people can neglect their family because of being obsessed with exercise. I used to fall into this bucket. It wasn't too extreme, but I was definitely spending too much time at the gym, more time than I needed to. And because I started anchoring myself back to that question I posed earlier, is what I'm doing right now healthy? I was able to identify that no, it wasn't, both for my physical health and the health of my relationships at the time. Now, in Goggins' case, I don't want to make any assumptions. I only want to speak to the facts of what we know as outsiders looking in. Has David Goggins' daughter come out calling him a deadbeat dad, saying he was an absent father? Yes, that is true. She did. Has David refuted these claims, saying that he left her alone out of respect for what she actually wanted? Yes, his mother also came out in his defense. What else is there to this? As far as I'm concerned, absolutely nothing. This is he said, she said bullshit. One of them is lying, and I'm not going to make an assumption about which one. I'm not here to pass judgment on who's right or wrong in that situation. Honestly, it's not even the point. But it did make me pause and think about something bigger. How easy it is for extreme focus on training, especially in the endurance community, to start pulling us away from health and from the people that we actually care about. And that's where I want to take this conversation. There's one more question though. Is what David Goggins is doing healthy? I would say no, it's not. Running a 200-mile race, while supremely impressive, is nowhere close to being healthy. I don't even think half and full marathons are healthy either. Honestly, I don't think anything over a 10K, unless it's very slow and easy on the heart, is healthy. This might piss some people off, but I'm just going to tell it how it is. And you might be like, what the frick, Randall? I thought runners were healthy. Well, the dose decides the poison, just like with all things. Like I said, a 5K or a 10K, there's probably some good adaptations happening there. Half marathon or full marathon once or twice, no big deal. Chronic racing and pushing for PRs, not anymore. That's not health. It's very common for people to have their heart rate in zone 3 and sometimes creeping up into 4 and 5 for half and sometimes 3/4 of one of these races, especially if they don't have their pacing correct. These races are just incredibly stressful events. Recovering from races is a whole ordeal that needs to be respected, but many don't. You should take time off of running for a few weeks, or at the very least have severely reduced volume. If someone's heart rate creeps up to 160 and stays there for 1.5 hours plus, that's incredibly stressful on the heart and arteries. Yes, at a certain point, you will have a beneficial adaptation from this. It could look like lower blood pressure, but when sustained for an hour and a half, that's a different story. That's an hour and a half of blood forcing its way through your arteries at incredible pressures. This force eventually leads to the arteries being stressed and your endothelium being damaged and needing of repair. The endothelium is the thin inner lining of your blood vessels that controls what gets in and out of your bloodstream, kind of like the bouncer of your circulatory system. Now, what do I mean by repair? I'm talking about when your white blood cells, your immune cells, come through and try to help out, forming what are called foam cells. Think of these like your cellular band-aids when you have damage inside the body. Cardiac hypertrophy, this is the literal growth of your heart, while making you more efficient at running, can go too far. You only have a certain amount of space in your thoracic cavity. Eventually, your heart doesn't have enough space to beat properly. Now, occasional bouts like this aren't super dangerous. The risk comes from repeatedly hammering the system without proper recovery. What am I basing these statements on? Well, there are a plethora of data looking at chronic endurance athletes and coronary plaque volume. I want to talk about the results of two. The first study was titled Increased Coronary Artery Plaque Volume Among Male Marathon Runners. Researchers followed a group of men who had been running at least one marathon every year for 25 years straight. These were the ultra-consistent, lifelong endurance types. Each guy went through detailed testing, blood work, ECG, blood pressure, heart rate, and most importantly, a coronary CT angiogram. That's the scan that can actually see the plaque inside your arteries. Then they compared those results to a group of healthy but sedentary men of the same age. Now here's what they found. There was no difference in how many people had plaques between the two groups. Runners and non-runners both had them. But the runners actually had more total plaque volume, on average about 200 cubic millimeters of plaque, compared to only 126 in the sedentary guys. They also had more calcified plaque, 84 versus 44, and even more non-calcified plaque, 116 versus 82 cubic millimeters. There's a caveat though. It's important to state that the amount of blockage and diameter of the vessels didn't differ significantly. But Randall, how could that be? More plaque buildup, similar blood vessel diameter, and similar blockage? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is potentially the beginning sign of atherosclerosis, a key component of cardiovascular disease. There's something called arterial remodeling. Positive remodeling is when the artery expands outwards as plaque forms. This preserves the channel size so blood flow stays normal. Then there's negative remodeling. This is when the artery narrows as more and more plaque accumulates. The marathoners were experiencing positive. But don't let the word positive fool you. All this does is hide disease progression. It makes it so you can have loads and loads of plaque, but still look normal on basic imaging. So on the whole, the thing to focus on in this study is that marathoners have far greater amounts of plaque in all three subtypes that they measured. Crazy stuff. All right, now real quick, let's look at another big study that dug even deeper into what happens to the heart of long-term endurance athletes. This one was titled Prevalence of Subclinical Coronary Artery Disease in Masters Endurance Athletes with a Low Atherosclerotic Risk Profile. The researchers followed 152 Masters athletes, average age around 54 years old, most of them men, and compared them to 92 healthy, non-athletic controls of the same age and low heart disease risk. These people had been doing endurance training for an average of 31 years, and most were marathon runners. The median was 13 marathons per athlete. Every participant went through the full workup. echocardiogram, stress test, CT coronary angiogram, MRI with contrast, and even a 24-hour Holter monitor to look for irregular heart rhythms. So this was a serious deep dive into both structure and function. When they looked at coronary calcium scores, there was a massive divide between the men who trained for decades and the ones who didn't. The median calcium score for male athletes with any measurable calcium was 86 compared to just 3 in sedentary controls. That's not a small difference. That's nearly 30 times higher. But when you look at higher calcium loads, a CAC above 100, 300, or even 400, the difference explodes. Only the male athletes reached 300 or higher, and none of the sedentary men did. It didn't stop there, though. 44% of male athletes had at least one plaque compared to 22% of sedentary men. Even when looking at vessels with plaques, the gap widened. 21.7% of male athletes had multiple affected vessels compared to just 3.7% in controls. So this wasn't a subtle signal. This was a massive difference. Decades of high-volume endurance training were associated with more plaque, higher calcium buildup, and more multi-vessel involvement, even in people who otherwise look like the picture of health. Athletes showed mostly calcified plaques, about 73%, while sedentary men had mixed plaques, around 61%, which are softer and more unstable. That might sound like good news. Calcified plaque is generally more stable, but it tells us something. These arteries have been under chronic mechanical and oxidative stress for so long that the body's response has been to literally harden those walls over time. Their arteries were literally turning into bone, and the longer they trained, the more likely they were to show it. In fact, the number of years spent training was the only independent predictor of having high calcium or a moderate narrowing, and that was only seen in male athletes. On top of that, about 14% of the male athletes showed late gadolinium enhancement on their heart MRI. That's scarring of the heart. None of the controls had it. 7 of those athletes had scar patterns that matched old silent heart attacks. And in 3 of them, that scar lined up perfectly with the artery that had a 50% blockage. So even in these lifelong, highly trained endurance athletes, we're seeing a clear trade-off. Their hearts are strong, but the data shows real structural remodeling, calcification, and even silent injury that builds up over decades of pushing the limits. Now look, this is all scary stuff. I'm not trying to dissuade you from running. Quite the opposite, actually. This channel has and always will advocate for including running in your fitness programs. What I am trying to bring to light here, though, is that you can go too far. More fitness does not always equal more gooder. So just to repeat, I think what Goggins does is supremely impressive and something that I could never even hope to achieve. But I also don't want to, and I will try to dissuade others from trying to do what he does unless they live a life that could allow it. That last point, what does that mean? A life that could allow it. Well, something else to bring up in regards to Goggins is how much damage his body goes through. Goggins has done loads of videos where he speaks about how much damage he's endured doing some of these races. I mean, that's the whole crux of his ideology. No matter how messed up I am, I can mentally persevere anything. But I want to talk about a specific interview he did with Tom Bilyeu, where he talks about his experience trying to qualify for his friend's race.
I signed up for this race. It's called the San Diego One Day, where you run around a 1-mile track for 24 hours to see how many miles you can get. My goal was 100 miles. So I got to mile 70, and I cleared 70 miles in like 12, 13 hours pretty quickly. But I was done. My feet were broken. I was stress fractures, shin splints, muscles were tearing. I was in bad shape. I was eating Ritz crackers and drinking Mileplex. That's all I had. No water, didn't know what the hell I was doing out there. Had on some tube socks. It was just ridiculous. It was a clown show. So I sat down at mile 70, and at this time I was married. And I look at my wife, and I was like, I'm messed up bad. So I literally start to turn white. And when a black guy turns white, you're pretty fucked up. So here I am. I'm all fucked up in this chair. I'm at mile 70. I got 30 fucking miles to go. I'm jacked up. I got to go to the bathroom. And the bathroom's like 20 feet from me. It's a porta potty. I can't get out of the fucking chair. So I'm peeing blood down my leg.
Whoa.
Pooping up my fucking back. And I got 30 miles to go.
Firstly, let's talk about the peeing blood point. That sounds like rhabdomyolysis, rhabdo for short. This is absolutely a serious condition that we need to focus on for a minute. In a nutshell, this is when your muscle fibers break down rapidly during extreme or prolonged exercise and release their contents into the bloodstream. Your kidneys try to filter that stuff like myoglobin, which is toxic to them in high amounts. So if not caught early, this can cause severe kidney damage and in some cases even require dialysis. Not fun stuff, guys. I'm not sure how fast Dave recovered from this, but it can take 1 to 3 weeks. The other stuff he says in there, feet were broken, stress fractures, muscles were tearing. I want you to think about your typical days and weeks that you go through, especially if you have a family. Would you be a fully functioning human if all of that happened to you? No, your family would hate you because you'd be laying around all the time, writhing in pain, needing massive recovery windows because you just can't stop destroying your body for the sake of what? Ego. Now, some of you are unemployed. Some of you don't have families. You don't have responsibilities. Maybe you're still at home with your parents. Respect. Save that money. If you're young, yeah, go challenge yourself. But the key demo that listens to Goggins isn't 20-year-olds. It's 30 to 50-year-old men that have careers and families. These dudes do not need to be pushing themselves to do 50 and 100-mile races because someone told them that their limits were just in their brain. No, your limits are real, and you can destroy the ever-living shit out of your body if you push past those mental barriers your brain has there for a reason. Your brain doesn't just tell you to stop for no good reason. It's a survival mechanism. It is warning you, hey, something is wrong here. What are you doing? Please stop. We are literally dying. So that's what I mean by a life that could allow it. You're young and you don't really have important responsibilities. Even I don't have a life that could allow it. If you really think about it, I need to demonstrate leg exercises for people on a daily basis. What good am I as a coach if I can't even show you a lunge because my knee is blown out from that mountain trail ultra I did 6 freaking months ago? David can do these things because he's rich. He doesn't have to go to a 9-to-5 day job and perform. He can do whatever he wants to do. But Randall, David fights fires. Yes, he has fought fires, particularly during wildfire season. Again, respect. This is not a day job for him, though, and these are temporary assignments that often last only weeks. My point in saying this, though, is that Goggins can afford to break himself. You cannot. Now, I want to bring up another point of contention for me. When fitness becomes an escape. As a coach, I've dealt with all kinds of individuals. Some do less than I tell them. Some do exactly the amount that I give them. And some cannot help but do more than I give them. These people have demons. We all do. Act accordingly. I'm not here to compare traumas from one person to another. But what matters here is that if I write a weight training program for someone, and I've written down specific weights, reps, and sets, it should be assumed that this is the maximum effective and recoverable amount based on what I've seen from that individual. Usually based on a series of strength assessments involving 1 or 3 rep max tests. Same goes for cardio, using a recent race result to program out their next training program's mileage and pacing. This is very specific. Doing more doesn't make you better, it breaks the system. When people start to leave the realm of specificity and venture into the realm of this feels good and makes me stop thinking about my problems, we're gonna have issues, especially in high performers. But look, there's tons of motivational videos talking about when I don't feel like it, I do it anyway, blah, blah, blah. These people are full of shit. Most of the people that you see videos from on social media, they love fitness. They eat, sleep, and breathe fitness. Like me, I don't make videos like that because I know I'm being dishonest. It's not hard for me to show up at all. Sometimes I can't sleep because I'm so excited to lift or run. It would be inauthentic for me to make some motivational video of how hard it is for me to get up and get after it. I like fitness because it makes me feel good. It makes me stop thinking about all the negative thoughts that I have. It puts me in a better headspace, and that can be addicting. What starts to happen is a 1-hour session becomes 90 minutes, then 2 hours, then 3 hours. Then they're signing up for a marathon. Then they're signing up for a 50-miler. And then you never see them because they're off in the mountains running for 5 hours straight, 5 days a week. And what time you would see them, you don't because they're too busy nursing their wounds. Literally holed up on a couch somewhere, broken, stuffing their face with as many carbs as possible and hoping they can rehydrate by the next day. That's not healthy, people. Anyways, the main idea here is that obsession sneaks up gradually. It starts as self-improvement, becomes a coping mechanism, and then ends up as an addiction. But Goggins doing these 200-mile races is not normal. These also aren't just things that you can suffer through randomly. Check this clip out from Nick Bear, where he interviews another ultra runner, Chad Wright, on his podcast.
So at that race, I think I only ran 84 miles or something like that. And there were a lot of people, I think, who thought, well, what the crap, Chad? You only ran, why? We thought you were going to win the race. You know what I mean? And this really opened my eyes that on some level, there's a belief that exists out there that you can just get mentally tough enough to show up and perform at a high level without putting in the necessary work.
There are people out there who think these people that are doing these ultras are just using mental toughness to get through these races. The people that accomplish these amazing feats have been training for decades, racking up tens and tens of miles a week at very specific pace ranges and elevations, practicing fueling strategies to make sure that they can complete these races.
The reason people want to believe that you can just train your mind to this level, that you could just go and perform without the work, is because then it gives them an excuse to not do the work, which is the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
People want to believe I can just use this little hack that Chad just told me where I reset my watch every 10 miles. Or I can break things down into small digestible segments. Or I can just, decide to be patient or stay present. I can be really deliberate. I can just do all these things and I can perform. Like that's just gonna trick my mind into this state where I can just keep going. No. You have to be physically prepared.
They have to put in the work to be successful. This is such an important point. What you don't see with these social media influencers is how big of a part of their life the training is. These people train a lot, multiple hours per day, multiple times per day. No amount of trickery or tomfoolery is going to bypass the need for all that training to happen. This goes back to most people cannot afford to do what these people do. You make it through the race because you trained for the race. Period. End of story.
To truly prepare for a sub 3 hour marathon, for a performance like Kendall and what was the other guy's name? Kim put on at the BPN Ultra, to truly prepare for that type of performance, you need to have, I want to be honest with you right now. The load, it becomes this thing that consumes them.
Mm-hmm.
It has to consume you. By the way, to the detriment of everything else in your life, all of your other responsibilities are going to suffer.
But the thing he said there, that other things in your life are going to suffer, that further echoes the point I made earlier about neglecting family and other life balance things. This is the crux of it for me. Are there people that end up with a husband or wife that loves running just as much as them or loves hitting the gym just as much as them? Sure, there are some super couples out there that just got incredibly lucky in finding that right person, but most people won't. So no, most of the stuff you see on the internet is not normal at all. These people don't live normal lives. They eat, sleep, and breathe fitness, whether it's weight training or running or cycling, it doesn't matter. The same risk applies that you can become addicted and these things can consume you. And I think that's the other problem I have with the whole Goggins thing. People go chasing what he's doing as if it's normal and it's not. If you want to go sacrifice many other areas of your life to go try and be special, by all means, challenge yourself. But when that becomes your new normal, something is wrong. Something I try to preach here on this channel is training for health. Whether it's trying to preserve muscle mass while running instead of just solely focusing on race performance, or if it's focusing on cardio instead of just lifting because no one wants to be a big old bodybuilder that's getting winded going upstairs. There are other realms that we forget about and we get short-sighted. Binocular vision on a singular focus, so to speak. Using the Goggins method to train is not healthy. Training like a powerlifter is not healthy. Training and eating like a competitive bodybuilder is also not healthy. There are healthy elements to each of these, but each one takes it too far and is no longer in the realm of health. It reminds me of the people that we all know, that we talk to every once in a while, who are like, man, when I was your age or back when I was younger, I used to do this crazy thing, blah, blah, blah. Brother, no one gives a shit. They don't care what you used to do. They care about what you're still doing. What did your lifestyle lead to? It led to pain and injury, and now you've quit everything. I'm one of very few people from back in the day that's still hitting it hard, and it's because I train smart, focus on health, and know when to back off and listen to my body. And I'm not attached to any one thing. That attachment point is super important. As cliche as it sounds, don't be attached to outcomes and fall in love with the process. This applies for fitness, but it also applies to life in general. Starting a business, fall in love with the process, not the outcome. Starting a YouTube channel, fall in love with the process, not the outcome. That's exactly why I've been able to last here on YouTube. I really couldn't care any less if I made it. I just love doing it. I love researching. I love blabbing. So it's a win all around, whether I blow up or not. If I was attached to the outcome, then every time I made a video that didn't hit, I would feel god-awful. Having a piece of content that you put your heart and soul into not do well is truly a terrible feeling. But because I just like the process of creating, it doesn't matter to me. It's all good. But look, here's how I want to wrap this up. At the end of the day, this channel is about staying in the game for life. Health first, performance inside of that, not above it. Goggins is incredible, both physically and mentally, but he is an edge case. Most of us have jobs, families, and bodies that need to work tomorrow. So here's the always adaptive framework that I want you to use. Number one, train for health, then for goals. Have 2 to 3 strength days, keep your running mostly easy, and earn your hard sessions. That means that high intensity training should be the reward for consistent recovery, base work, and smart progression, not your default. Number two, respect recovery. If you push a race or a max phase, cut volume afterward on purpose. Recovery is a part of training. It's a pendulum. You can't spend too much time on one side. And the further the pendulum swings in the intensity direction, the further it will swing back and force you to recover if you don't listen. Number three, watch for red flags. When training becomes your escape and the plan keeps growing just to feel normal, that is not discipline. That is drift. Keep an eye out for when you start to do more than you're supposed to do. Extra reps, extra sets, extra days. Watch out for all of it. Stay mindful. Number four, align with your life. Training should make you a better parent, partner, and professional. If those things are sliding, the plan is wrong. It should enhance your life, not compete with it. Number five, compete when it serves your health. Chase PRs in season, not year round. You can be proud of big goals and still choose longevity. But if you're constantly looking to one-up your last performance every single week and month, I promise you, it's only a matter of time before something serious happens to you. If you want a simple template, start here. 2 full body lifts each week, 1 optional third lift, 2 easy runs, walk daily, sleep like it matters, eat enough protein and real food. Do that for 12 months and you will be unrecognizable in a good way without breaking yourself. If this resonated with you, watch the video I have pinned in the comments on whether or not running makes you lose muscle. I'm Randall James. Train smart, stay adaptive. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.